I'm UFC Hall of Famer Pat Miletich.
I'm naturopath Doc Will Spencer.
I'm mindset expert Nicholas Spone. If you want to detoxify your cells, remineralize your body, and live up to your true health potential, you've come to the right place.
We are the Cell Saviors.
Let's have a conversation about one of the most important topics for health, and that's digestion. So this is going to be a little bit of a long video today, but I know across our nation, the world, people are having systemic digestive issues, whether that's colitis, IBS, constipation and diarrhea, food sensitivities, low energy, all of the things that come from digestive issues. I guess, Dr. Will, why don't you touch on some of the problems that we're seeing as a nation around digestive issues?
So irritable bowel and other digestive issues like that, where you're eating food and it goes out the same way it looks as it comes in, like nothing's happening almost, to diarrhea, to constipation, to upset stomach, over acid stomach. There's a lot of different names for similar things.
And why is the digestive system so crucial for our health?
Well, you can't live if you're not bringing nutrients in or you're eliminating, because it's the same system that brings stuff in, digestion, and then takes things out, chelation. So it's the same system. So, if it's not working, you're not going to have either improvement or cleaning, detoxing happening.
So the assimilation and elimination, obviously, that's what we're made of, is not just what we eat, but what we assimilate, right?
Right.
And, we use the term people are full of shit. If you're not eliminating properly, you get full of shit and toxic. And there's so many issues from that. So talk about our gut and the connection with our immune function, because we talk about immune function a lot. We did a video on athletic performance yesterday, and we kind of tied that to immune function. So obviously athletic performance, immune function, it's all tied to our gut. How does that work?
So historically, we're hunter-gatherers or scavengers, or we're eating a lot of different things, a lot of different times, a lot of different conditions. And so the bulk of our immunity, medical research is saying that is the diversity of strains of microorganisms and other larger organisms that live in us, from our mouth to our rectum, is the immune system. Like 80% of that immunity lives inside this tube, and it's all about keeping things in balance, as well as breaking these elements down that we're eating and turning them into usable elements for us that get assimilated in through the lining of that digestive system. And so when that's out of balance, the microbial or biome imbalance happens, then all manner of things. So the immunity starts in our digestive tract with the balance and diversity of organisms that are there. And so when that is disrupted, then that is the beginning of the dysregulation or the lack of immunity. So, and then that continues on. Those organisms and our body work together to create other exudates or hormones or enzymes that then continue to go systemically throughout our body for the immune regulation.
And I think a lot of the allopathic model is, we have a digestive system, let's treat that. And you have an immune system, let's treat that. And really how do you even separate them?
You can't. Allopathic medicine does a really good job at isolating everything and keeping it separated and compartmentalizing, but there's zero ways in natural science to take the difference of your digestive away from your immunity, away from your hormonal creations and whatnot. You just can't do it. Everything is dependent on everything else. So you can't do that in the real world.
So our digestion is tied to assimilation, elimination, immune function. And I know it's also, and you know as well, it's also heavily tied to our mood. Because I've gone through phases, in my journey where I had, I don't know if you want to say mood disorders, but anxiety, sadness, fatigue, that I linked to the digestive system. Like there was nothing mentally, emotionally. I knew it was a temporary state linked to my health because it's not always, well, we can talk about the mental emotional link in a minute, but talk to us about the neuropeptides, the serotonin and dopamine that are made in the digestive tract and in our intestines.
Let's just talk about earlier, you said, full of shit, right? So if you are literally not eliminating the waste stream, it's stuck. You're not going to be able to make those neuropeptides and hormones and things that are in a positive way. It's going to be out of balance. And so really, on one level, the depression can and is the result of you feeling that imbalance. It's just the way it is. I mean, just look at the sewer system. Take that, for instance. When your sewer system isn't eliminating, your septic tank can go bad and it stinks. It doesn't work and it backs up all the way in the house and then no one's happy in the house. I mean, literally, you can look at it that simply.
And you look at the digestive system and the amount of coating and plaque and debris waste that's coated to the intestinal walls.
In today's world,
the impossibility of absorption of nutrients because of that,
right,
has been so diminished that people aren't getting the benefits of
right,
any of the nutrients out of the food that's even remaining today, right?
Yeah, our food is so deficient just on its face, in general, organic or not, that we're not getting the recommended elements coming in to even make balanced hormones just on its face. And then you throw in all these other complications of pesticides and endocrine system disrupting chemicals and all these other things on top of that. It's a miracle that we're even alive and not killing each other emotionally, which we kind of...
Well, it happens. Yeah, it is happening a lot, actually.
Well, sick people in society.
Yeah. So let's talk about our gut as our second brain. Obviously, there's neural connections from the gut through the vagus nerve. I mean, that's directly tied into the nervous system through the enteric nervous system, which is connected to everything in our digestive tract. How do we think about, I mean, I guess that kind of just segues off of what we were just talking about, but let's talk about the when I say gut, stomach down,
stomach,
intestines, small, large,
and the whole process.
So how is that our second brain, and what are some of the issues that if we're out of balance?
So I don't necessarily look at it as the second brain. I look at it as the second part of the overall brain, because you have your glandular system. So the brain needs what? You said neuropeptides, amino acids, essential fatty acids. So you have that runs on that fuel, and it runs on determining on signals, information that's traveling from the processor of things to the processor of information, up and down. And so when that gets disrupted, or it doesn't have the pathways clear or free or even built properly because of malnutrition, you have disruption. It's no different than a ham radio signal. You're trying to dial into that signal, and you're going to have disruption there. So it's a second brain down here. You have things going on in here, and you have things going on in here, and they're dependent on each other. You have the glands in the brain. What are they? The pineal gland, the thyroid here, the pancreas here, and they need full communication all the time, open lines, and it's just not happening.
So one of my mentors, Chase Hughes, says, point to the start of your brain, where, the bottom of your brain, and it's down, it's down here, like
the
this,
bottom.
and the nerves go out from that, and information goes into the body or out of the body, and it goes back into the spine and up the brain. And so how is the entire body essentially is the brain in a way. So you can't really distinguish that. And the gut is a massive part of that, a massive part of where the neuropeptides are made, where cellular energy is generated or blocked. And it's an interesting thing. And let's talk about, I guess, an imbalance in the gut. When we have these health issues, how populations, I mean, this is so common these days, of out of balance, SIBO, SIFO, candida, mold, funguses, parasites, when that digestive system gets out of balance and there are organisms that we see as pathogens that aren't necessarily bad. They're just bad when they're out of balance, right? Is that
Correct. I don't believe in the good or bad thing unless you're looking at genetically modified organisms versus natural. Then there's good or bad, but just on its face, you have imbalance and you have balance. That's otherwise it's marketing.
And a lot of growers in the growers world, say for instance, the people that are producing food, will talk about pathogenic bacteria. And I'll go, there's no such thing, right? And they go, what do you mean there's no such thing? It's only the populations when they get out of control because of, again, toxicities, immune or nutrient deficiencies and things like that.
That's demonizing a strain of something.
That's essential for a good purpose.
Right. So like E. coli is a big one.
That's what I was just going to mention.
Bacteria now.
Staph, right?
Staph.
They have roles.
They have absolutely important roles in a balanced system like ours. So E. coli, Salmonella, Staph, Streptococcus.
They're a part of the immune system.
They're part of our immunity. They're part of our digestion. They're actually highly important for they're the ones that create our B vitamins, a lot of them, inside of us. But they can't because they're out of balance.
We're throwing antibiotics down. We're down our pie holes.
And there's people buying B vitamin complexes, and many of them, vast majority, are synthetic.
Yeah, well, medical real. We'll get there.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Why? Why is this happening? Why is the out of balance nature happening? Why are people not able to assimilate, eliminate?
There's a few spools on that wheel.
Well, let's get into it.
You're gonna get into that?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay. So the biggest one for me is the environmental toxicity issue.
Yeah.
The chemicals that are, and this is easily to look up. You just go on the EPA website and look up these chemicals that are in our environment. As the biggest offender that I see is in what's called the inner ingredient list. There's like 30,000 chemical compounds, and most of them are what's called endocrine system disruptors by the Environmental Protection Group. It's readily easily to find this out. And what does that mean? That when these chemicals get in us or on us, they disrupt our endocrine system. Our endocrine system is our chemical plants in our body, the pineal gland, the pancreas, the thyroid, the thymus. They make all these like 1,200 different hormones, neurotransmitters, our
Testosterone, right?
testosterone, the hormones,
Cortisol, adrenals, yeah.
Exactly. And so these glands get disrupted because these chemicals cause the disruption to that. So that's one of the spokes.
And that's in food, cleaning products, environmental pesticides, the stuff you're putting in the lawn, the stuff that's getting sprayed in the skies or in the water.
It's in your lipstick. It's in your eyeliner.
Your clothes probably.
Oh, absolutely. Cotton and nylon, and it's coming to us everywhere, really. That's a big offender. The other one that I notice is malnutrition in and of itself. You can't make these 1,200 chemicals in our side of our body, which is immune system function, digestive function, nervous system function. You can't make them if you don't have the tools. And if you don't have the tools, you can't make them properly. So they're going to be imbalanced and cause more chaos.
So we'll get into this in a little bit, but that's the salt, minerals, and electrolytes. That's the 77 colloid minerals that come in the fulvicumic. That's essential fatty acids, amino acids, which are the building blocks of proteins, essential carbohydrates. No, I'm just saying. If we're missing any one of those, even a trace mineral that we don't think is important.
Like yttrium.
Yeah, we talk about,
no one knows what leads to yttrium.
Well, there's 77 of them. I mean, we know calcium and magnesium and potassium and maybe a few others. But so if we're missing one of those, we're going to start to have a chain reaction.
Downstream GX
of issues. Mm-hmm. Of course.
So we'll just talk about, I think it's important to talk about just iodine alone and the fluoride interaction and what fluoride does to iodine, and that even if you're taking an iodine supplement, many times the fluoride in our water and is going to be causing weight problems, displacing it or blocking it, and then blocking all kinds of different pathways for nutrient absorption.
Yeah.
I mean, it goes on and on and on.
We talked about glyphosate in another video about just that one mineral of manganese gets blocked. And in 2 steps, you have over 20 minerals that you can't use, absorbed, they're blocked. One chemical.
Interesting. Okay. Okay. So I guess diet as well, right? Like the things that people are eating, even the things that are quote unquote healthy. I mean, we made a video on this yesterday, but some of these, even if they're organic, naturally raised, using, healthy in healthy soil, some foods that people are eating are just not even meant for human consumption, right? What are some of those foods and how do they affect the digestive system?
My group is one big group. It's cereal, grains, nuts, and seeds of any kind. That includes like kidney beans and rice and all of those things. That's not food for human beings at all. It's survival foods at best when you don't have real food, which is your animal products and your fruits and vegetables.
There's a lot of people out there that are going to hear this area and go, we've been told our whole lives.
I would live that way for 20 years of my life, and that's where my illness is. When I made that distinction and stopped that and went this other direction, my life changed in less than 30 days. My overall health just accelerated.
Sure.
There's so many foods that fit in that group that people are just habitually eating, culturally eating, emotionally eating. I mean, pastas and breads, like to tell people that that's not human food, especially the way that they're processed these days.
It's healthy human food.
And even
cans of roasted nuts.
Right. Even almonds are supposed to be great for you. And, but the oils they're roasted in, those alone, and then they're full of lectins, they're full of oxalates, they're full of a lot of phytochemicals that are really tough on the digestive system. And so that diet, even the healthy, heart-healthy grains we talked about, like that's a massive strain on the digestive system. And I guess what does that, if I'm eating a diet that's legumes, grains, nuts, seeds, what are people going to experience over time on that diet as far as digestion?
As far as digestion, this is, I believe, the basis of the cycling of constipation and diarrhea, because it's the same problem in essence. Peristaltic muscle just really takes a hit. The villi, the little fingers inside the intestines, become damaged, gummed up, and that's where the interface happens. That's where the microbes and the other organisms live in amongst there, like the roots of a tree. And then you lose the ability to have the transmission of elements from the gut into the body right there. That's the biggest offender right there. And when that is disrupted, it goes south from that point. Unless you get that fixed and healed, it's really, really hard, if at all possible, to regain health.
So we've kind of got the environmental toxins, the toxins that get into our body, and then our diet. And there's some other things that affect digestion. There's a few let's cover those before we kind of get into solutions. But I think one of them is light, right? Like we are living in a world of artificial blue light that our ancestors never would have dreamed about or considered. We have a lack of natural sunlight, and that people are telling us to make sure you wear your sunglasses and stay out of the sun and put these chemicals on your skin so you don't get the most natural healing thing that there is. And so I guess talk about the exposure of blue light, especially in hours where there's not natural light. How does that affect the digestive system?
Extreme, because your body, let's just talk the vitamin D connection. So if you're not getting those animal fats into you, you're not getting the proper light on your skin, you're not able to make that one hormone called vitamin D, 3D, whatever. It's made right here, right under our skin, interfacing with the right ingredients coming in from animal fat soluble ingredients, and then the interface with the sun on our skin, the real sun, not
And with our eyesight without sunglasses.
with our eyesight, because this is also windows. They say windows to your soul, but it's windows to your brain. It's windows to your nervous system. So those hormones then have to be created in a certain sequence from the proper ingredients, and light being one of them, to even create the proper digestive enzymes and hormones in your stomach. So there's a lot of complicated things that have to happen. Well, it's not complicated, really. But it's complicated nowadays with all these synthetic lighting and synthetic environments that we live in. But in a natural environment, all those things naturally would happen. And then that really impacts our digestion, positive or negative.
And there's a lot of talk here that's going to complicate a lot of people or confuse a lot of people. There's a lot of information already. We're not even remotely done with this conversation, right?
That conflicts with the natural the narrative.
So there's a lot going on. And the main thing I want to just reiterate with this is, as you listen to everything, the information that's coming to you as a listener, keep moving towards nature. Move away from man-made chemicals, man-made light. Just move away from all of it. Continue to move toward nature, and you will continue to get.
How was it 250 years ago, before all this modernization and industrialization, is really how we were living for the land.
But here's the thing is, they will say, 250 years ago, people only lived 40, 50 years. That's ridiculous. Fallacy. It's a big time fallacy, because the bones they've been digging up, they thought, well, they're in the condition of, there's just horrible condition, right? And they were measured against the quality of bones from a person who is 50 years old today, because we're so nutrient deficient, right? When in reality, they would start finding the dates on some of these burial areas, and these people were 100, 110, 120 years old, with the quality of bones of a 50-year-old today. So that tells you a lot.
Yeah, and so I guess just to wrap up this light thing, I think what I would recommend, and I'm guessing you would agree with me, is to limit your phone hours, especially to maybe daylight hours. Shut it off as the sun's setting. At
least get a filter.
Sure.
Glasses they have nowadays that are readily available to filter those lights in the evening.
Get exposure to morning sun. See the sunrise. See the sunset. I think that the signals of those frequencies of light communicate so much information to our nervous system. I think that alone can be life-changing. So there's light. And then I think there's also the pharmaceuticals that people are taking have a massive impact on digestion. And so I'm going to go over two categories. You can include many more. I think opioids have a massive impact on the digestive system, and antibiotics. And so
a negative.
Almost every.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that's the thing is.
And the huge amount of pharmaceutical products that cause weight gain, because I've actually been attacked by people verbally telling me I don't know what I'm talking about. And I go, well, go ahead and look up what pharmaceutical products cause weight gain. And they'll go ahead and even Google it, start to research it, and then go, oh my God, I had no idea. And now we look at the obesity crisis in America. It's not only being caused by the food, although the food is grown with what? Pharmaceutical chemicals.
Well, they're putting that in the animals and the...
Sure.
Absolutely. So what's the mechanism of leading to the obesity or the digestive issues from pharmaceuticals, synthetic chemicals?
Hormonal levels alone can cause that, with higher testosterone or lower testosterone levels, higher estrogen going out of control. The heart attack and stroke in women alone from the levels of estrogen that are prevalent now, it's like 400 times more likely to have a heart attack or a stroke from those levels of estrogen, those estrogen levels. And yeah, I'm looking at men all over the United States, and look, I'm not attacking them. I'm just telling you what's happening is that their estrogen levels have gone so high and their testosterone levels have gone so low that they're built like middle-aged women.
We should start a men's bra line. I think that would be a big seller for our torture stage.
It's a tragic comedy is what.
Yeah.
And I don't know, and I'm looking at a lot of these men who are even veterans, people who were, very conscious about their health and things like that. Now, what are they doing in the VAs, just for instance, to our veterans and prescribing them? They're labeling them with mental issues, and they're prescribing them massive amounts of prescription drugs, and what's happening to their bodies and their minds. You can just see the shape changing all over the place. But obviously I'm passionate about that because it frustrates me to no end, because people aren't seeing or understanding, where this is all happening and why. So
we're kind of almost done with the causes of issues, but there's one more I want to touch on that's a whole different video, and I focus a lot of attention on this in my other life, I guess, let's say that, is the mental and emotional issues. And when you're in a state of chronic stress, fear, worry, you're telling your nervous system, hey, listen, this is not the time to worry about digestion. Let's shut that part of our system down so we can focus on surviving this stressor, get through it. And then once we're through it, then we'll turn that system back on.
And that's an automatic function that happens. That's not really something you can consciously control without effort.
Right. Without that, yes. It's
When you're in a fight or flight situation, you don't really worry about that food being, all that energy is, and blood and everything is shunted to our muscles. We're either going to run, fight, hide. So then digestion doesn't happen. Frontal lobe thinking doesn't happen, which is, again, the brain thing going on.
And it's meant to be like that when we're in those situations, for a few minutes or a few hours.
Not all day, every day.
Not all day, every day.
Right.
I've got all kinds of other content on this, but almost all of it's imagined stressors.
Mostly.
Right? I mean, what could happen? What is this person thinking of me? People reliving stuff from the past in their imagination that's telling their nervous system be on high alert constantly. And so there's definitely more work around that. There's other content maybe we'll make on that specifically. Anything you want to, either of you want to add to the stressors of mental, emotional, and imaginary, or real
Societal stuff that's going on in the news is constantly piping bad news to us.
Social engineering, isn't it what's called?
Well, not decide, and I mean, we'll talk about modern times, the generated, what we perceive when we look at it, we go, we saw this coming for a long time. It's facilitated, it's created, it's fabricated, it's by design what they do to society to cause trauma and fear, inducing fear constantly. And so the best thing that people can do is literally take their TB and throw it in the trash. First and foremost, and let your kids start reading books.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's go. I'm going to recap these causes here. So environmental toxins, the toxins from our cosmetics, the chemicals, pesticides in our food, light exposure that's completely unnatural, opioids, antibiotics, probably antidepressants, all of pharmaceuticals. Yeah, just in general.
That really haven't even talked about frequencies.
Yeah, it's probably all other. The vagus nerve or the mental and emotional stuff. That all of that causes the system to get out of balance. That causes a lack of digestion, a lack of assimilation, a lack of elimination. So let's get into some of the solutions that people are trying and maybe how they're a little bit misguided or they're not working. So one of those is, I guess, we should have probiotics. Let's talk about fermented foods, go to the grocery store, go to the pharmacy and buy, or online and buy probiotics.
This is really big.
Do those work? Why or why not?
Topic, but yeah, you have two different kinds of probiotics. The ones you make like kimchi and cabbage and whatnot, those are the lactic acid producing. They actually colonize inside of us, on us, like a candida infection, if you will, is an overgrowth of one or more of the 14 candida family members that grows on the outside of us, the inside of us. Those are easily fermentable, meaning they reproduce very easily inside of us. Then you have the soil organisms, the soil microorganisms. That's what we kind of specialize in, is those rare ones that are not in the food chain anymore. They're pretty well gone. They used to be in the food chain up until about the 1920s is when they began to start disappearing, which are really the major important ones for holding the balance or keeping the balance inside of us or on us for our immunity, our digestion. Those are also referred to as transient organisms because they transient mean they move through the food chain. They move from the food chain into us, and then they go eliminate. They do not go pathogenic. They're all about holding the balance in diversity.
So you kind of made it sound like the lactic acid ones are unfavorable. Is that the case? Or
in moderation, they're perfect, but you got to have both. You can't just be having the bifidus, the acidophilus, those lactic acid producing ones without the transient. It's actually the transient ones that keep
Keep the population
Keep the population check. Absolutely. And so you need both. And that's where the marketplace, if you will, is lacking severely, because these transient organisms, for one, are really not real available in the marketplace. They're a little volatile, meaning they're hard to store and keep in the conditions of the big overall marketplace.
And most people don't know how to store them.
Right.
Suspend them.
Right. Yeah.
So if I'm going and getting a probiotic, or a food, a yogurt, ferment that's got probiotics in it, I'm probably just getting the lactic acid producing ones. Is that mostly?
I think the best in the marketplace, the best outside of our stuff, of course, I'm talking the general marketplace. There's a couple of products that have between 12 and 35 soil organisms in them, different strains. Like, that's probably the best you're going to get.
That are non-GMO.
Outside of what we're going to talk about.
Outside of what we're going to talk about here in a bit, yes.
And at least they're non-GMO.
They're not bad.
They're still alive.
They're in a dormant state.
They will come alive.
They will come alive, right. But so you have, say, 35, 36 max, okay? We need thousands, hundreds and thousands of strains to keep that balance, because they do all different kinds of stuff in us. So I'm talking about the diversity and the amount of each strain. So it's very common. I'm seeing people with acidophilus infections. I'm seeing people with lactobacillus infections because
they're overdoing.
They're overdoing, say, sauerkraut. They're overdoing going to the store, and they're getting 56 billion colony form units of this one strain of organisms. That's overpopulated. That's called an infection.
And bacillus has been weaponized many years ago, right?
The whole family, most of them.
How many decades ago were they working on weaponization through?
What's and?
There was a Japanese scientist that they told him, because he was doing some of that, I know.
Mm-hmm.
I forget his name off the top of my head, but they told him, either come work for the United States government or we're going to shoot you. You're going to die by a firing squad. So a lot of them have been weaponized due to, the beginning process.
And so that's the GMO versions of these things, correct? Are there GMO versions of the lactic acid producers in natural kefir sauerkraut in our environment?
There are, because you can see the patent numbers.
Mm-hmm.
They're modified, or to some extent, they may not be genetically modified, as we know, like a CRISPR or a lab created, but they're modified enough through maybe forced modification in
genetic expression
that they can show enough of a change to get a patent on them.
Mm-hmm.
That still, in my opinion, that is not a good thing to have.
Okay.
The very organisms, the building blocks of life that have been altered by mankind just to make money, and how they alter nutrients or the creation of, everything going on in the body, in the soil, and everything in between. It's a very, very dangerous concept when you really think about it.
Yeah. Well, we'll get into some solutions for that in a minute, but these are what people are trying that maybe are a little bit misguided. Let's talk about I guess mucoid plaque is a massive and popular term that people are trying to get out of their system. What is mucoid plaque? Is it real? How do we think about it? How do we eliminate it?
So back a long time, back in the 70s, there was a cleanse you could do that would basically have that mucoid plaque on your intestines let go and come out into the toilet. And it basically was like the mucoid, and some of the pictures, you can look this up online, it looked like the insides of your gut. So that buildup is what I was talking about earlier. That happens on that villi, it blocks, it clogs, it causes all kinds of pH changes.
Hard and rubbery, right?
Yeah, some of them actually are. I've witnessed some crazy.
Like a skin shedding.
Yeah.
I mean,
like a snake on the outside. Yeah, exactly. Like the whole lining of your intestine, that mucoid plaque. And so that is not healthy at all to have that in us, but most people have that.
Okay, so I know there's popular things like extended juice fasting with eating tons of fiber or adding enzymes. Does that work, or are there some negative consequences from doing that?
You may get short-term relief, but that's part of the plaque. So when you're eating that plant material, that dietary fiber in whatever form, whether that's grains, nuts, and seeds, or if that's
No, this is meat buildup. This is what everyone says. It's only
only
meat buildup.
That's a really good point, because it kind of is.
Okay.
But when you are eating grains, nuts, and seeds and meat at the same time, you get what's called putrefaction. So because
The oils from
the grains, nuts, and seeds, yes, disrupt our stomach and the acids and what's the bile, all that creates what is putrefaction? It's not digestion properly. It's
from
improper. And so what that creates is that mucoid plaque, and that sticks into the villi and it coats that whole thing. And so, but when you take the grains, nuts, and seeds out of the picture and start to supplement properly, the body eventually gets rid of that naturally, because it's not an outcome of digestion anymore.
So the thinking of using a mechanical stimulus, tons of fiber, maybe bentonite clay, psyllium husk to push that out could have. So it could work, or it was going to have more.
It may work symptomology-wise on a short term, but it's going to cause more problems long. I mean, just look at bentonite clay. Look up what bentonite clay is. In the health industry, it has a definition, like it's a binder.
Right.
Okay, it's a binder. In the oil and gas and water industry, bentonite clay is called drilling mud. As a farmer, rancher, bentonite clay, you put that in your dirt-bottomed water trough to seal the dirt so the tank holds the water. It does the same thing in drilling. It seals the soil as you're drilling down so you don't get water escape into the surrounding environment. It does the same thing to your gut. When you take a drilling that
seals the shaft tubes,
your shaft from your mouth to your rectum, it coats it with this mucoid plaque created naturally by moistening bentonite clay.
he gets wound up about bentonite clay. You started this.
Yeah, because it's bad. I've seen damage.
I think this is a really important topic, and in a way that, and I've done a lot of research, and I know I've heard this from you, but I have not heard that from anyone else.
Because they're getting paid.
Even YouTube.
But they're not familiar. They're not as familiar with the natural ag world, oil drilling, oil and gas industry,
Water well.
all the way to human health and livestock. I mean, you just don't find that range of knowledge that we have.
Right. Okay, so let's get into supplements. There's all kinds of supplements people want to take for digestive health.
Let's look at why they're taking them. Why does they want to feel compelled to take these things?
Well, let's say I'm not eliminating properly. I've got either constipation, diarrhea, or alternating. Maybe I want to take magnesium oxide for that, or I don't know.
Well, how would they know that? It's all about marketing data.
Because I follow an influencer who tells me to do that.
Exactly. That's my point. What if that influencer is being paid to say things that are not accurate? But I mean, you're getting a relief. You get to empty out.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a much bigger picture in taking magnesium. If you take magnesium, like they're saying right now on the internet, like Instagram, I was noticing some things, some ads. You're going to cause a calcium problem. You're going to cause a central nervous system issue problem downstream, because you're dousing with these magnesiums that are basically rock dust, that are not really digestible, that are causing the liver to dump bile to stimulate something to happen prematurely or unnaturally.
So let's talk about the form of supplements. I guess, it's all about balance, right? And when you take one thing in isolation because you think you need it, you're potentially causing an imbalance. And also that one thing, if you go buy it at the grocery store or on Amazon, it's probably not in a form that you can use anyway, right? What are the form of that most people are taking supplements in, and why is it the wrong form?
Again, they're either lab created or they're going to be, as he said, rock dust in a form. When they talk and they talk about metals, they always have to classify them, at least on their side, as heavy metals, right? And again, when we talk about geology, getting into biology, and chemistry, the reactions and the creation of the transfer of heavy metal into colloid mineral because of the digestion of the microorganisms. That's what we're talking about as far as bioavailability and usability. And when it comes to minerals that are going to properly create genetic expression and immune function, that's what we're talking about. So those mineral vitamin supplements on the shelf at the grocery store or whatever store it is that you're going to, 95% of all of those are not real. They're created in laboratories, or they're just rock dust, and they're going to be in heavy metal form. You're ingesting heavy metals that bioaccumulate inside of your body, inside of your cells, and you wonder why you've got metal toxicity. It's not just from the environment, it's from the so-called supplements that you're taking as well.
There's a good example of we were talking about the rock dust type thing. There's a calcium magnesium supplement on the market. I won't name the name, but it's basically ground up bone, which is ground up coral. They grind that up, which is insoluble, meaning we don't process this. And I've had numerous people come to me. I mean, I'm talking way more than 50, because they're eating this undigestible calcium magnesium product, which is basically ground up bone, and they're coming with kidney stone problems. And so they didn't have kidney stones prior to taking this product. They have kidney stones after taking this product, and the kidney stones most of them go away when they stop taking this product. And so and
there's a difference between bone and coral.
There is differences, but all I'm saying is it's an undigestible form. Now
But it has the
petri dish.
It's got the raw materials of calcium and magnesium.
There's magnesium there in the petri dish. Again, allopathic science, right? But natural science, when you take that in that particular form, or the rock dust form, it's completely different inside of here, because it's going through this natural process, and it does not process the same inside of our body versus the data that says, oh yeah, in the petri dish, there is calcium there.
And that's what the soil savers microbes do in the soil. They digest those, turn them into plant food.
Correct.
And either that gets eaten by an animal, or it turns into produce for us, and then we're eating that in a bioavailable form.
Yeah.
That's been digested by the soil microorganisms or the microorganisms inside the animals.
Or we find amazing, incredible deposits of 60, 70, 100,000-year-old peat bars that have been nothing but massive plant machines of the growth and dying phases.
But that's still digested by the microorganisms, so it's the same principle.
It's just one massive deposit of colloid minerals.
All right, beautiful. Well, we'll get into some of that with actual solutions here. I think some of the other things that we've already talked about is the diet myths, right? That this mucoid plaque is caused by meat. You want to have lots of fiber. I mean, should we just touch on the fiber myth briefly?
We can, because it's really a myth. It's actually a menace to us, because we don't need, if your peristaltic muscle was working properly, we would, the food.
So for a lot of people, they don't know what peristaltic muscle is.
The muscle that is, the muscle that surrounds your entire intestinal tract, from your stomach all the way to your rectum.
It helps move it through.
And it helps it move it through. Exactly. It does this, and it pushes it through naturally as it's supposed to. That muscle does not work for most people.
I'm here to dumb things down.
Appreciate it.
That's what I'm here for.
Yeah.
Yeah. So doing a great job. So just one word like that or phrase like that can lose a lot of listeners. We have to consistently monitor ourselves for how we're explaining this to make it understandable to people who haven't been exposed to this kind of information. That's all, right?
Absolutely. So I think we've covered we've covered a lot here. Let's get into the actual solutions. So people are like, okay, that's me. I had this diet. It's affected me. I've tried bentonite clay. It's probably made things worse. I've been taking these supplements. I haven't I had to take a course of antibiotics back in the day. I don't feel like I've recovered from that. So now they're feeling maybe bad and overwhelmed at all of the things that we've just brought up and not sure where to go. So let's start giving people solutions here. And maybe we just start with diet. how should we be? I mean, we did a very long video on this yesterday.
Yeah.
But let's just summarize what should people be eating.
So from my standpoint, I just want to throw this in here. And I don't know throughout your entire life how things have been, or for you, you went through some problems, a few years ago for the most part, But for me, I started growing my own food in my mother's backyard in 6th grade. I built a garden. It's just in my blood, right? So I started growing a lot of vegetables, and we had apple trees in the backyard that I planted, actually. And so by doing that and growing my own food, back then I was putting natural manure and other things in there 50 years ago, whatever, some, close to that. I don't know how much that had to do with it, but I've never had digestive problems. I literally can eat anything. I'm a human garbage disposal now, and I can eat anything that won't bother me.
Not that you should, but
no, and I don't, but I don't have digestive problems. I don't have constipation problems. I don't have diarrhea. I just don't have any of those problems that most people have these days. So I'm very blessed and lucky with that. So, and maybe in terms of the toxins that came into my body, right? We know my respiratory system was affected. So genetically it affected me respiratory, where a lot of other people genetically will be bothered.
And
Congestion.
And we both kind of had some exposure to mold and a few similar things. And my respiration is respiratory is perfect. It's always been great. And my digestive is, where the issues were. So I think it's
I had both.
Yeah.
Respiratory and digestion were up. So it's been an extreme struggle for me. And I started with the digestion because it was the worst. Like my whole childhood was bad. Like I had 75 food and environmental allergies or sensitivities. And I had constipation like no other, and then bouts of diarrhea. So that's been a struggle for me. And that's where my experience has been basically figuring out what was going on here inside.
Yeah.
And then discovering that, oh, wow, it's like not everyone's like Pat.
So
solutions we want.
So it's a little, but yeah, let's stay along diet lines. Someone's having issues. Maybe they're ready to say, you know what, I'm ready to make a change. And if it's got to be dramatic, it's got to be dramatic. I'm really struggling. I guess what's the most dramatic step to take in diet to get things back on track?
First thing is get rid of processed foods. That's the first thing. We get back to whole foods. Animal products and fruits and vegetables are the main go-to for whole foods, easily accessible. They don't usually come in a box. Other than like dried fruits is acceptable, in my opinion.
In limited quantities.
Yeah, you don't want to eat a whole box of dried apples or prunes or blueberries or something,
And just something as simple as chewing your food, right?
Oh yeah,
absolutely. Chewing your food, smaller pieces, chew it completely.
Taking your time.
Tim James, our good friend that we know for many years, stresses that just in like his beginner customers or clients, he'll say, chew your food.
Mastication, right?
Right. And that's the initial part of the digestion process. And drinking proper amounts of water, and not at mealtime because it's diluting your acids, your digestive acids in your gut. So things that simple, right?
Yeah. And
do that.
For me, going on a pretty strict carnivore has helped a ton. And I've used a lot of, we talked about this, broth, with bone broth, joints, feet, duck heads, all the things that make really collagen-rich, mineral-rich broth. That's had a massive impact on me.
Yeah, because I can tell you this, when you take a ladle down into his soups and broths, you do not know what's coming up on that spoon.
Right? It's a very interesting.
I guess that's a lot of people go to a strict elimination, maybe a GAPS diet type of thing, and definitely see relief from that, right? And so if we can maybe pull out some of the excess fiber, pull out any processed food, pull out any nuts, grains, and seeds from the diet, probably pull out processed pasteurized dairy.
Yeah. Not mixing and food combining is a big thing.
Correct.
People are not really used to hearing like mixing your fruits and vegetables, like putting blueberries on a lettuce salad is really not that great. It may taste good.
Well, and remember the Gracie family from MMA and Jiu-Jitsu. That's a practice that they have followed generationally for many, many years.
It sounds boring, but when you're eating meat, eat meat. When you're eating fruit, you eat fruit.
Vegetable.
And then there's breaks in between.
I mean, you can do animal products and fruit together, fine. You can do animal products and vegetables together, fine. But do not do those combining of all of those together,
And especially with grains, right?
Well, yeah, that's not food. Of course. Right. That's just elimination.
And we have other videos talking about ketosis and intermittent fasting with that diet. I think that's very healing to get plenty of nutrition and then take a break for 16 hours, maybe 1 or 2 meals a day, getting into that state of fat burning. And I think that can also be healing. And then I guess last thing with diet is, and we talked about this earlier off camera, is for me what's really helped is high amounts of fat. And when I say high amounts of fat, animal fat, yes. I mean higher than seems reasonable to me. And that might be like a spoonful of grass-fed butter in my coffee. It's spoonfuls of lard or tallow throughout the day. That has had a tremendous effect on my digestion, my regularity. I'm going every day. I know this is TMI, but they look perfect now. Everything looks really well digested. And maybe that's just because the fats drive, create a bile release that then affects the whole digestive system. But how important are fats for digestion?
So I have a really good trivial fact regarding that. So we have a gag reflex right here that when we reach a point of maximum saturation of animal essential fatty acids in our body, you couldn't swallow to save your life.
So you can't overdo it.
You can't overdo it. It's genetically, physically, mentally impossible to get too much animal fat or animal products into your body because your body recognizes when it's full. And I've reached it twice in my life where I've tried to disprove this, and it's absolutely a fact. You cannot swallow when your body says, okay, I'm done now.
And I know a lot of people worry about the heart issues from eating animal fats, but
that's a whole eating problem.
Total myth, right?
Yeah, total myth.
Okay.
In general.
And that's another video. People can do their own research on that. Excellent. Okay, so then supplements, we talk about this over and over again, getting all of the essential minerals, nutrients you need from food is just about impossible because the soil doesn't have them. If the soil doesn't have the trace minerals and salt electrolytes that we need, it's not going to show up in our food, which means it's not going to get into our body.
Right.
So what are the supplements people should be taking for digestive health?
Well, the bar that it has to be set. I mean, you can take we've discussed the different qualities of, for instance, fulvic acids. The vast majority all have hydrochloric acid processes to separate the fulvic from the rock. And then because of that process creates bacterial imbalances, therefore they have to pasteurize and kill all the bacteria. So you just then have whatever mineral traces are there. We would love to give out all of that information to everybody so they stop doing that. But just based on the fact that from all the testing we've done and looked at, by far the highest nutrient levels in our fulvic, for instance, right?
On a colloid mineral.
So I would love it, but we don't have the marketing dollars to be able to educate everybody on those facts. Okay. So the quality has to be number one. The nutrient levels of the fulvic has to be very high. Two, if you don't have it processed naturally, so that the bacterial counts stay and you don't have to kill it and pasteurize it, that's the quality level that we demand, right, for the fulvic acid. And then non-GMO microbes, right? And
Soil microbes.
soil-borne probiotics.
Transient microbes.
And the diversification of those. And then also the nutrients, the minerals from salt, the quality, high-level salt that
we're talking like 90 different electrolytes or sea salt minerals and 78 colloid minerals, and then thousands of strains of these soil organisms.
Then people have to understand the salt, the minerals, everything that's in that. They have to think about the microorganisms in the ocean and how healthy that is, right? So that can turn
in the right oil spill, in the right source of them, right? Because there's brand sources, toxic sources of the salt as well.
Sure, but here's the thing. an oil tanker can split in half and dump into the ocean, and it can go everywhere in that area of the ocean. And eventually the microorganisms in the ocean, because they are so effective, will then convert all of that into food, and that will turn that into a very rich fishery, which happened with the Valdez, which
over time. We can speed that up with our knowledge of microbes.
yes, in the soil.
But over time, nature will take all of that back. Absolutely. So we've got the 77 colloid minerals from the fulvic humic deposits, which are in a bioavailable form, living,
fossilized,
living because they're not treated with acids and heat like every other.
They don't need to be.
Fulvic on the market.
They're loaded with organisms,
Right.
transient organisms.
Well, and they're very unique, not exposed to, you have to think about, at the 60,000-year-old sediment layer, it's not in the fossilized rock, but it's down far enough to where it's not being affected by, and it's in a location near the Arctic Circle, basically,
Very remote.
where there's no human beings.
Mm-hmm.
It's not being touched. It hasn't been touched by human chemicals or anything like that. So it's very unique.
And we get a test. I mean, how many testimonials do we get with people's digestion from the fulvic humic alone?
Right.
I mean, I guess, we talk about black pudding sometimes. Like when they take it and initially what's happening to create that effect?
It is cleaning the intestinal walls. It's chelating toxins out of the cells. It's doing all kinds of wonderful things to the body. The natural probiotics that are 60,000-year-old strains of very unique probiotics are going to work in the body as well. It's assisting in the nutrients in it are creating real fuel for the mitochondria, cellular energy. There's so many things going on.
Unloading all that stored up metabolic waste and just getting that junk out.
So really,
fat.
It's like immediately assimilating the nutrients and minerals and helping elimination, because it does both of those, and that's what we were talking about with what digestion is, right?
The speed of which people get the results is
very fast.
In all my years of searching, I've never seen anything like it.
Sure.
The speed of which things happen. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the testimonials just
Now, I have had, and we've learned to, over the years of understanding, baby steps, small amounts, one capsule for 10 days a day, to be able to ease people into this detox phase and the changeover of then the rates of the real nutrients going into the body. But early on, guys like all-pro lineman from the New York Giants, who's a friend of mine, got on the product and called me up, and that's where the black tapioca pudding phrase came from. I'm asking me, am I supposed to be, I'm just going to use the word shitting black tapioca pudding. And I said, that's your body's cleaning out. Yes, your body's cleaning out. But yes, now we've learned to just ease folks into that.
So we've got the fulvic humic, which is a living substance already. Mm-hmm. And then let's talk about the 100+, which is the probiotic.
Which then takes the digestion to a whole new level. We've seen it.
And immunity and getting rid of junk.
Women love it.
What's in that and how does it work?
So there's over 125 strains of organisms in there, soil organisms, and they are in it's an amino acid or a humic fulvic base liquid, and I don't remember the name of the strains. You'll have to check the
125 of them. You can't just rattle those.
No, I don't right now.
Yeah, but that takes the fulvic humic. People that will get on the fulvic humic for a while will go, this is the most amazing thing I've ever had happen to me in my life. And then they add the 100+ to it and go, it just got that much better.
Yeah.
Right. And then the digest assist.
Well, hold on, but let's say with the 100+. So what does that do that makes it so effective? And what can people experience on it?
Well, so it's broader strains, more diversity of strains. So you have even more, and they're breaking down and making available what's in the humic and fulvic to your body. It's cleaning, changing the environment inside, because those organisms, all these strains, the organisms are always trying to create a clean and healthy environment for them to live in. So there's a lot of chelation and detoxing going on with these
and conversions into nutrients and vitamins. And
do they balance out and compete with an imbalance of what we may call pathogenic strains.
Yeah, so look at SIBO, which is small intestine bacterial overgrowth. That's what SIBO stands for. So you're putting these strains in, and some of the first things that those kinds of people notice that have that is, oh, wow, I feel calmer. I don't have this stabbing, grinding pain anymore. Well, the pain is there because you have an active infection, basically, and out of balance. And so you're putting this whole bunch of diverse strains in there, and then they compete for space. They balance each other out. So now you don't...
Homeostasis.
Yeah, balance.
So, okay, so and that, how often do you recommend and how much do people take of the 100 plus?
Daily. 1 tablespoon a day is adequate for an adult. Half a teaspoon or on up for a child, just all depends. I've had somebody had a 6th grader. His 6th grade son got like food poisoning at school, come home, and he called me as a friend of mine, and I said, well, just take a couple ounces at one time, because that's an imbalance. It's an infection, because he went immediate diarrhea and vomiting, and just your system is just cleaning right out from that. In less than 20 minutes, I get a phone call back. It says, well, I had 4 ounces. I haven't taken 4 ounces. And he says, he's like 15 minutes. He was back to normal, because you're putting the diversity in, and it just knocked that infection down immediately. Food poisoning.
Is this something people take for a while? Do they stay on it?
No, it's ongoing, because these are transient organisms that should be in the food chain, just like the humic and fulvic minerals should be in the food chain, but they're not.
Yeah.
So this is a daily ongoing. This is basically food. It's not like a medicine or anything like that. This is actual. It's the food.
It's what's missing from food.
Right.
Right. Okay. So we've got the fulvic humic, we've got the 100 plus, and those were 2 out of the 3 components in the old regen kit, the regeneration kit, and we've added 2 more because from talking about it, we think they're so important, and they're just missing from the diet.
And not just talking about it, but from actual real-time analysis and scanning, we've discovered that we need these other 2.
So let's talk about the salt first. So we touched on a little bit, salt, minerals, electrolytes, how important they are for digestion. So let's talk about the salt of the gods.
There's 90 different electrolyte minerals, sea minerals in that. So it's the broadest that we can find on the planet right now. It's the most available, vital, high vitality salt form or electrolyte form. It's like it goes right to work. You put it in your mouth, like just take a pinch and put it in your mouth. You can feel it going to work. I mean, I've had people that have had like cramps in their legs really bad. Just take a big pinch and put it under their tongue. In less than 3 minutes, the cramps go away. It's that active.
And, I think like you were talking about animal fats, you can't eat too much of it. I think with the salt as well, it would be pretty difficult to overdose on salt, correct?
Right.
Because the taste in your mouth, like you would just not want it anymore. It wouldn't taste good, right?
Right. Well, right now, 1 to 2 teaspoons a day of consumption of that salt is pretty much on, well, it's on every scan I've done in the last years. It's like we're that deficient of
Not like a lot.
It sounds like a lot. So, I mean, I easily do a teaspoon a day, just putting it in my mouth. I put it in my water. I put it on my food. But we're that deficient though. I mean, we have our own lab results to say 1 to 2 teaspoons a day is everyone needs. Every scan I've done for a long time now, years, we're that deficient though.
What is that salt specifically doing for digestion?
Well, we have
Proper hydration, number one.
salts
or mineral salts you have to have.
This is a moist salt. It's a moist salt, so it definitely impacts us with hydration. The other thing is you need all these different electrolytes, because what are muscle action? This is your peristaltic action. I've had so many people say, if I don't have this salt, I get constipated. So what is that indicating? Your muscles right? To have a muscle action,
Electrical impulses.
exactly. And electrical impulses require wiring and hardware, and the electrolytes are like the wiring and the hardware to make the electrolysis happen properly.
I mean, that's the firing.
They carry the current.
They carry the different currents inside of us.
That's the firing and releasing of those muscles, both, right?
Absolutely.
And when we're taking one thing, like one, a magnesium or a calcium separately, we may get a benefit for one of those.
Traction usually
Out of balance.
Yeah, if you're
Is that calcium?
it won't release.
Right. That's the magnesium deficiency, right?
Well, part of it.
Okay.
There's a lot of other minerals involved, but when you're deficient, usually you can contract, cramp, and it won't release. It's stuck. It doesn't have the other minerals there to give it the signal to go, relax.
And the salt works
And
just.
the salt works that fast.
Wow.
And that goes for cramping of your legs or your arms or your neck, but also cramping of your peristaltic muscle that it surrounds our entire intestinal tract. You'll get this, but it won't release. A lot of times constipation is just from that.
Wow. Fascinating. Okay, so we've got those three so far. And then, of course, the Digestasys. So talk to me about the Digestasys supplement. What's in it? How does it work?
So Digestasys is a whole food. There's a lot of whole foods that are in there, as well as the minerals. And then that is a fermented product, meaning that there are some lactic acid producing bacteria that's used along with transients that go into this mixture. So we're taking all these whole foods, which you'll see on the label, and then it's all ground up basically into a slurry, put into a fermenter, a big tank in essence, and then we control the fermentation cycle. The organisms then convert those ingredients, whole food ingredients, into available form and multiplying at the same time. So we're taking, there is some lactic acid produced, like bifidobacteria and lactobacillus, as well as I think there's 9 strains, and that then is digested. Then it gets dried, fast, low heat drying, to preserve the microorganisms or the probiotics, and to preserve the other enzymes and elements that are in there, ground up into a powder and put into a capsule.
Excellent. How quickly can people expect results from? I guess how much should they take, and what results can they expect?
So basically, you're taking 4 of those a day for an adult. Every time you eat, you could be taking those because they're going to go to work. I take 4 a day. I usually only eat 1 major meal. I take it at that meal, or 2 and 2. However, 2 earlier in the day. There's really no wrong answer there, but you need to use it with food, just like the humic and fulvic is good with food because it should be in the food anyhow. And so it's just more, more support for the deficiencies and added organisms that are creating the enzymes that should be going on inside the stomach.
So this is the regeneration kit, which is the humic fulvic, which is such an incredible product, the 100 plus, the salt, and Digestasys. And this is, we encourage people to do a 30-day, starting with this, cleaning up their diet, getting rid of the grains and seeds.
But
starting with that. And then this is something that they can take. They're going to feel the difference and probably want to take it just at an ongoing.
This is something that I've been taking for over 20 years, like this, every day. This is food. This is actually what our food should be, is having all these ingredients in them.
And again, my children take this on their own. They don't need to be told, never have. They understand, and they feel what it does for them. And, having one daughter still who's a swimmer, another one who's now a triathlete, doing quite well, mind you, they know what this is doing for them. And then their oldest sister went out and ran a marathon, so just went out and ran a marathon.
Yeah. And we've got another product that we can touch on, is that Transcendental GI Cleanse. Why don't you talk about what that product is used for and what it does?
Well, that is rich in, there's over 250 strains of transient soil organisms. They're kind of unique because they're what's classified as extremophiles, meaning they live and work in extreme environments, like the acid in our stomach. So the acid in our stomach does not negatively impact them, we can live and work. They can live and work there freely without any problems. Well, almost, the 100 plus and stuff as well. But you don't have to worry about the stomach acid issue. They have a propensity to eat or digest hydrocarbons, heavy metals, petrochemicals, things like ever chemicals like PFASs, pesticide residues, pharmaceutical residues, the toxicity things, the glyphosates, for instance. In a petri dish, a little study that was done, in a petri dish with these organisms, glyphosate basically is gone in less than 5 minutes.
Wow.
So the diet, if you will, or what they break down is so diverse. There's no such thing as forever chemicals anymore at all. They're converted into colloid minerals and essential fatty acids in no time inside of us, as well as using them out into the environment.
And that's 2 every other day, if I remember correct.
No, it's 4 a day.
Okay.
For that, the heavy cleaning.
Okay.
You gotta put them there. A little bit more saturation.
Okay.
Get that job done.
Okay. And then you had mentioned something that I guess comes up a lot with questions is stomach acid. So if I'm taking these probiotics, doesn't my stomach acid just kill it?
Not ours. No, that's that's the kind you buy in store that you got to refrigerate because of they're volatile that way, and they work in a very limited bandwidth of environmental conditions. Ours are not that way. Ours have a diverse, that's why they're called extremophiles. They work in extreme environments, and our stomach, unfortunately, is an extreme acid environment, so we don't have to worry about that at all.
This has been, we've covered a lot of ground here. This has been really exciting. Dr. Will, I just have a question. People that I kind of want to give some hope to people because digestive issues are they're just so draining and can be really challenging.
Absolutely.
And confusing and frustrating and so many things. Can someone who's got chronic constipation, IBS, Crohn's, SIBO infections, can they really get to a point of feeling energized, having immune function, digesting regularly?
Absolutely. I can tell you without even a question that if you're going to follow some of those recommendations that we've talked about throughout this video and others about dietary recommendations, and then putting into the supplement, into the body, what we're talking about supplement-wise, you're going to get increased overall health to the degree of, it's kind of individual that way, but the quality of your life will definitely improve.
Awesome. So let's summarize here. I guess we've got rampant digestive issues throughout our nation. I'm sure all of us have friends or have experienced it or are experiencing symptoms of this. We know why it's important. Our immune system, our energy, our neuropeptides, our brain is linked to it. And some of the causes of the issues are the chemicals, the pesticides, glyphosate, pharmaceuticals, antibiotics, deficiency in our diets, eating things that we should not be eating, that are not part of the proper human diet,
And even supplements.
and supplements that aren't bioavailable for us.
Right.
Emotional issues that we hang on to, traumas, kind of the whole vagus nerve overactivity, and artificial light, not getting enough sunlight,
Frequencies.
everything. So there are a lot of things that we're facing, and people are trying all kinds of things. They're trying probiotics. We went over why a lot of those don't work. They're trying it with diet. There's a lot of misconceptions there. The supplements they're taking aren't in the proper form. They're often making things worse. And a lot of these cleanses are harsh on the system. They're not putting the minerals back in, and they may get a short-term effect from the binders as well. May get a short-term positive effect, and overall draining the system.
Negative, yeah.
Yep. And so the solutions are, I guess everything that's in the regen kit, and then the transcendental GI cleanse as well, which is, and if it's not these products, hopefully other products that are similar that have colloid minerals that are bioavailable living
non-pasteurized with not hydrochloric acid that cause the bacterial imbalances that force the pasteurization of.
Correct. And the fulvic at the right layer, right? Like not showing
Non-fossilized.
not fossilized.
Rock, shale, yeah.
And very high in nutrient levels.
Really important.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. And then those the right mixture and proportion of those transient soil-borne probiotics that are missing, a few of the lactic acid producers, the minerals, the electrolyte salts, all of those stuff on a daily ongoing basis. If we could get it in our food, that would be ideal. Obviously our whole system is deficient in these.
Right.
And so this is kind of the best we can do, right?
From my observations, and I'm sure Will echo this and echo this sentiment, across the board, people are very happy with their digestion once they put the right things in their body. So
absolutely. And it's not a magic bullet. Like you gotta change the diet and lifestyle and the habits and the light exposure and get sleep and take care of your emotional issues. Like you can't just a repressed emotion as resentment, grief.
They don't have to do it all at once.
Right. It's a
little overwhelming when your rifle ends up rattling off that many. It's like a machine gun. So people watching this, hey, let's start with fulvic acid, the 100 plus, and the digest assist. How's that?
How's that? Yeah, and the salt.
The salt. Yeah.
So the regen kit, maybe a few minutes a day of meditation and some sun exposure, and that's going to start the process. And we get testimonials all the time.
Sure.
People feeling better, people eliminating again regularly, and getting life back on track and feeling great again. It's all possible.
Right.
So it's been very late for me. I know I've been through the ringer with digestive issues, back to regular perfect elimination, and it was a very frustrating and educating process. And Dr. William and you too, Pat, have been super instrumental in helping me get there. And so
winning the war.
Yeah. So we're helping as many people as we can, because assimilation and elimination that's what we're made of. Either we're full of shit or we're, it's the building blocks for what we are. So, all right. Hopefully people have some hope after this video.
Thank you for listening to the Cell Saviors podcast. To learn more about the Cell Saviors mission or to buy the minerals and probiotics your body needs to thrive, visit cellsaviors.org.
This content is for educational and entertainment purposes only and is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Always consult a qualified healthcare provider before making health decisions.